Well, hello again, Jets fans. This is GreenBean, and I have a wallop of a video for you today, man. As you look around and really try to pay attention to what's going on around you, you start to see some things, and I'm going to paint this picture for you. I think the Jets are doing a masterful job of getting things aligned just the way they want them at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. But before we do, let's hear a word from our sponsor, DraftKings.
The NFL playoffs are in full swing, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NFL, is coming in with a huge offer. All new customers using the promo code GreenBean will get 56-1 odds. That's putting $5 down on any team to win any playoff game, and you win $280 in free bets if the team you chose wins the game. That's right. If you want to make the playoffs without the Patriots and without Tom Brady that much sweeter, go ahead and put $5 down on the Rams to beat the Bucks. If that happens, you win $280 back in free bets. And if Sportsbook isn't available in your area, don't even worry. Everyone can get involved in their daily fantasy contest to win huge cash prizes. And DraftKings is also giving all new customers a free shot to win millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code GreenBean, get 56-1 odds. Again, put $5 down on any team to win any playoff game. If that team wins, you get $280 back in free bets. Again, use the promo code GreenBean. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official betting partner of the NFL.
That's right, and thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring this video. All the information you need to sign up for the DraftKings Sportsbook app is right in the top of this description. Just click on it, use the promo code GreenBean for 56-1 odds. So guys, the Senior Bowl is a-coming. February 5th, we're going to see a game between the national team and the American team, and the New York Jets happen to be coaching the national team. Now, how could that be? Usually it's the two worst teams. That would be the Jaguars. Well, they're in the middle of firing their coach and trying to figure everything out, so they can't do it because they got no staff. Then it would go to the Texans. Well, it would go to the Detroit Lions. They're good. Yep, we'll do it. We'll take advantage of this opportunity. And then the Texans would come next for the Jaguars. And guess what? They fired their coach too. So Joe Douglas swooped in and said, we'll take it. We want the opportunity. This is a fantastic moment for us. And I'm glad he did because, guys, getting that week with a lot of the draft prospects that are going to be coming into the NFL is so incredibly important. They get up close and personal with them. They see who's lazy, who wants to make jokes, who's really serious, who can play different positions, who's willing to do anything for the team, who's the leader. They get to see all that stuff right in front of their face for an entire week. They get up close and personal with these guys. But there's more to it for the Jets this year. And this is why it's so important to have a viable, legitimate staff in your front office. Like for so many years, we were just a joke, honestly. Now, I rooted for those jokes. I wanted those jokes to win. I watched the drafts the same way that I do for this organization. And I was always disappointed, just like you were. Why? Because they didn't know what they were doing. This staff, now I'm going to tell you some things that hopefully are going to highlight why it is that we have an edge here over the Detroit Lions and what they can accomplish down there in Mobile, Alabama. So, our staff is obviously led by none other than our general manager, Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas, for his first 2 years here, was not even the boss. He was equal with Adam Gase, who kind of coerced the owner to fire the previous GM and hire his buddy Joe Douglas. So they were here for a little while together, and we know what happened. So Adam Gase gets fired, and finally the Johnsons make Joe Douglas the top dog in the football operations of the New York Jets. Player personnel, he doesn't have a peer. He's the guy. It's his team. We're in the first year of that. Joe Douglas just got the keys to the kingdom a little while ago. But what he did was he brought in some guys. Now, for this video, we're going to talk about one guy in particular. We're going to talk about Phil Savage. Now, Phil Savage was the guy who gave Joe Douglas his start in the NFL. He was the guy. Phil Savage and Joe Douglas worked together. Really, Joe worked under Phil Savage for 4 years with the Baltimore Ravens. Phil Savage went on to be the general manager of the Cleveland Browns and then the Eagles, and Joe Douglas had his career. He stayed with the Ravens for 14 years under Ozzie Newsome and then went on to Chicago, then the Eagles himself after Phil Savage, and then he gets the job here and he hires Phil Savage for the Jets. Now, why am I talking so much about Phil Savage? What is it about this guy? Why do I care so much? Well, the Senior Bowl is held in Mobile, Alabama, which I'll be driving through in a couple days. Interestingly enough, tomorrow, actually. I'll be driving through Mobile, Alabama tomorrow. I'm not going to go to the Senior Bowl, though, sadly. So that's where the Senior Bowl is held. Now, Phil Savage was born April 7th, 1965. You want to know where? Mobile, Alabama. Phil Savage lived in Mobile, Alabama his whole life. He went to high school. Guess where he went to high school? Murphy High School. Guess where that is? It's Mobile, Alabama. Guess where he went to college? In Alabama. So after Phil Savage from Mobile, Alabama, knows everybody there, lived there his whole entire life, when he left the Ravens and the Browns and did the Eagles and did all this stuff, he ended up getting hired as the executive director of the Senior Bowl. Where? Mobile, Alabama. When did that happen? He got hired to run the Senior Bowl in 2012 until 2018. So he runs the Senior Bowl as the executive director, creating the rosters, going out there, seeing the prospects, meeting with the scouts, the whole thing for 4 years after being a director of player personnel, a general manager in the NFL for years and years and years, decades, since the 90s all the way until 2012 when he became the executive director of the Senior Bowl. So when he leaves the Senior Bowl, guess who he gets replaced with? Jim Nagy. We know that, right? Jim Nagy runs the Senior Bowl now for the past few years since Phil Savage. Guess where Jim Nagy has lived for the past 15 years? Before getting hired by the Senior Bowl. Guess where? Mobile, Alabama. Isn't that interesting? Now, interestingly, while Phil Savage was the executive director of the Senior Bowl, he was also the radio personality for the Crimson Tide, which is the team that plays for the University of Alabama. So we're going to talk about a guy who knows intimately every nook and cranny of the Alabama football scene. He knows the NFL football scene. He knows the college football scene, all the years with scouts and universities and players and all that stuff and prospects. But he knows intimately Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, and the Senior Bowl. The guy who replaced him lives in Mobile, Alabama, runs the Senior Bowl. So here we are. We get this opportunity to coach one team at the Senior Bowl. And you look at Detroit, I'm sure they got guys that are well connected too. I'm not saying anything like that, but not like this, not there. In Mobile, Alabama. So let's take a look at some of the results, some of the proof. Now that's just a bunch of stuff, right? Sounds good, looks good, make you go, maybe raise an eyebrow or two. Maybe you can do that, but it's like, okay, but what does it mean? So we look at the rosters of the Senior Bowl. Now the Jets, like we said, are coaching the national team and the Detroit Lions are coaching the American team. Let's take a look at a couple guys. This is why I believe Phil Savage and Jim Nagy, who are like this, I don't really know if they're like that, but it sounds like they are, with all the living in the same city and working in the same jobs and all this kind of stuff, okay? There's a lot of connections here, lots, but again, particularly here in this one place and one event. So you look at the rosters. Now, there's all kinds of good players on both rosters. When you look at the Jets roster with the positions that we need, maybe an interior offensive lineman, maybe some linebacker, right? You've been hearing us talk about this. Maybe even tight end. So let's take a look at which linebackers are coming into the Senior Bowl, right? You got guys like Devin Lloyd, arguably the top linebacker. We hear Nakobe Dean, you hear Christian Harris, Brandon Smith, you hear Chad Muma, right? These are the guys you hear as the top pack of linebackers. 2 of them are in the Senior Bowl. Guess where they are? 2 of the top 5, that little pack of linebackers, guess which team they're on in the Senior Bowl? National team. Again, our team. Devin Lloyd, Chad Muma, and another interesting guy, Darian Beavers out of Cincinnati, a 255-pound linebacker, are on the national team. Now, the other linebackers on the other side, lower interest. I'm just being honest. I'm not saying that they're not going to be good. I'm not saying they won't get drafted and everything. I'm talking about the guys that we would want to look at in the batch of Senior Bowl linebackers. You look at these guys, the guys that would interest you when you're doing your mock drafts, the 3 guys out of the bunch that would interest you the most are on the national team. Devin Lloyd leading the pack. Now let's take a look at let's just take one example of offensive line. Now, the offensive linemen that are the most interesting for the New York Jets are going to be 2 guys. One guy is Zion Johnson. He's considered a top 3 interior offensive line prospect. At worst, top 5. Then the other guy is Ed Ingram. You got these 2 guys. But here's the thing. We already know about the Jets and their focus on character. Ed Ingram, relatively recently, he got 2 charges on 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault on a minor. Does that sound like a Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh guy? I'm just going to say, no, it doesn't. Guess which team he's on? The American team. Go over there and play over there. We have zero interest in this guy. He's not even on our board. He's the guy that we don't want. Guess where Zion Johnson is? He's over here on the national team. Interesting. Now let's talk about an important positional group. Let's talk about the tight ends. Let's just really dig into the tight ends. There's an interesting theme on the national team. Now let's look at the tight ends. The top tight ends in the Senior Bowl are Trey McBride, Charlie Kolar, Isaiah Likely, Jeremy Ruckert, and guys like that. There's a theme though. The Jets want a guy that is known to block fiercely in the Y in line. That's what they want. They want to run 12 personnel. They want to run even potentially 22 personnel. They want 2 tight ends on the team. They started the year with it, didn't have the personnel, abandoned it in game 4 or so, and moved to an 11 personnel because that's what the personnel was that we had. That's where the strength was. So you got to believe that the Jets want somebody that is a blocker and a pass catcher. When you look at the tight ends on the national team versus the American team, you're going to see a trend. Let's start with the American team. Again, that's the Detroit Lions. You got Isaiah Likely, who's one of the top tight ends in the class. Little bit on the light side. Known as a good blocker, known as a good pass catcher. There's nothing bad about his game, but he's 238 pounds. Then you got Grant Calcaterra. He's 233 pounds. Then you got Greg Dulich. He's 238 pounds. And then you got Daniel Bellinger. He's the only guy over 240 in the bunch. He's a pure block. He's 255, but he's known as a pure blocking tight end. That's all he is. He might catch 3-4 passes a year kind of thing for you in the NFL. Now, when you look at the tight ends on the Jets side, first of all, you're going to recognize more names, especially because if you're talking about front end tight ends, you're going to recognize them. But then there's another theme. So let's say the names. You got Trey McBride, probably the top tight end in the class. Probably. He's looking like a second-round pick, early second, might even squeak into the first round. Trey McBride. Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. Another one. It's going to be an earlier pick. Third round, maybe, something like that. Looked really good at Ohio State. He's a fierce blocker, great hands. Then you got Charlie Kolar, another one. In most circles, he's a top 5 tight end. Not on the mock everybody uses. PFN has him as a 6th round pick. It's stupid. The guy's going to be picked way earlier than that. He's had numerous good years up there in Iowa. You got Jake Ferguson. Now I'm going to tell you the theme. These are, number one, you recognize those names more than Greg Dulich and Daniel Bellinger. But number two, you're going to see something. Trey McBride, 260 pounds. Blocker, catcher. Charlie Kolar, 257 pounds. Blocker, catcher. Jake Ferguson, the little boy of the group, 247 pounds. Blocker, receiver. Jeremy Ruckert, 250 pounds. Blocker, receiver. The argument could be made that the Jets are quite literally hand-selecting most of the players that they want an intimate look at. They're going to get to look at the guys on the opposite side of the field as well, right? They're going to get to see them and see which guys on their team have difficulty with that guy and this. And they're going to get to see the other team. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to spend that week learning our systems, breaking it down with the players, team meetings, all that sort of stuff. That's going to be the guys on our roster. And many of the players on the national team look the part of what the Jets want, more so than the guys on the other side. I want to make clear, I'm not saying anybody's better than somebody else. But for what this team is trying to accomplish, it looks to me like the impact of Joe Douglas's hand-selected senior assistant is having an impact. And this is why you want respected, well-traveled personnel people in your organization. This is the impact of having a real personnel department. And in my opinion, it's looking like the Jets are maximizing this opportunity. And this is the kind of stuff that lets me believe that we are turning the corner. Slow and steady wins the race, but there's a lot of different things going on here that the Jets never even had access to before. We had no idea how to pull these strings. And it looks to me like we're doing just that. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget about DraftKings. If you want to get on their sports betting app, the information's right in the description. All that said, have a great week and go Jets.